Right.
So if you started a fire and it was cold outside and you're camping, you started a fire with kindling and you had a pile of wood, nice big chunks of wood and a pile of kindling, and you just burnt kindling all night. How often would you need to be putting that kindling on? And it's never going to reach the temperatures that are actually efficient enough to keep you warm.
And a long burn.
Yep. And then you got to haul all this wood around that you didn't burn, right?
It tastes good.
Your fat. They say a journey begins in a single step, or in my case, one less piece of bread. My name is Chad, and I'm your test subject. I have sought out an expert in the field of nutrition and fitness who I hoped would help me feel, better. They call him the biohacker, but I call him Eric. I hope you'll join me on a path that leads you and I to optimal fitness as we live our lives in ketosis. This is the Life in Ketosis podcast, a biohacker's guide to optimal body performance. Hello everyone, my name is Chad, and this is my quest to achieving optimal body performance with the man that can get me there, the biohacker himself, Mr. Eric Bischoff. Every episode, Eric gives us his crazy intense, what will happen if I eat 427 grams of fat per day for a week, sciencey knowledge, and I break it down with my regular, non-crazy guy take, as we explore the principles of ketogenics and KPR performance training. Whether you're just looking for a way to feel better, or if you're an elite athlete looking for that edge, we're here to help. Welcome to the Life in Ketosis podcast. And today, we're talking about, imagine this, fat.
Yes.
But don't turn it off and don't tune out just yet, because there's some very specific things about fat that we want to talk about, right,
Yes.
Eric?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
How are you doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to be here and talk about fat. The reason I love this topic about fat, and we've talked about this, is it's so misunderstood.
Yes.
And it's starting to become more understood.
It is.
I love a couple of episodes ago, you talked about how the medical industry is starting to get a little more interested in what fats can actually be.
Yes.
And how they can help patients and well-being and that kind of stuff. So that's cool.
And it's even more exciting because the USADA dietary guidelines, we've got to get those changed, which there's a big movement going on within the low carb, pushing that so they can actually say, hey, tell us where we went wrong, why are we wrong, and let's get this fat issue squared away. And once that gets done and you change the dietary guidelines, then, like we talked before, then we got the doctors on board.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to go against the guidelines.
Yeah.
You want to get opened up for a lawsuit, possibly? So they protect themselves.
I think it's interesting, especially in this topic, to just note, and maybe a lot of our listeners don't realize or aren't familiar, that a lot of these government-based guidelines and regulatory agencies around dietary stuff has very little to do with science and well-being.
You got it.
And it has so much more to do with who's who, how much money they have, and how much power can they gain, and what industries will benefit from those guidelines.
If they would have just not jumped the gun and waited for some scientific data to come behind what they're saying, let's get rid of fat, and let's get rid of cholesterol, and let's raise up your carbs. So, but they didn't. They just jumped on it. We all know the story of Ansel Keys and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so with fat, the biggest issue I have is, I'm getting a lot of questions about fat again, okay, coming from my biofitters and others that are listening to the podcast. And it's going to take some time for people to really embrace it. And we have our biofitter shirts, and I have that one that says, I dig fatty acids.
Yeah.
And so wherever I wear it, I'm in the gym, I always forget that I have it on. It's a long sleeve shirt. And they're like, hey, what's with the shirt? And I'm like, now I got to talk. So I got to take my earplugs out and give them a little discourse on why I dig fatty acids. I've had women just laugh and say, oh, I love your shirt, but what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they don't have any idea. But it is a conversational startup. It does. But no, it's interesting. I did do a 7-day 420 something grams of fat a day, just because I was coaching and people are so fearful of fat. And I said, watch me go on this and what happens, okay? And I said in a podcast before that how my wife, I had to get up at 11 o'clock and stuff another avocado in me. And it was really, the first 2 days was torture. And then, like I said before in a podcast, that I actually started adapting to it.
Yeah.
But the neat part about it was I wasn't storing any more fat, okay? It wasn't going in as fat storage, okay? I was still working out and doing everything, and of course I was ketosis because I kept the carbs down. I'm not crazy enough to add carbs and protein in big amount with that much fat because I'm going to store it.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
But
you were also monitoring vitals and biomarkers.
Cholesterol, all my blood lipids and stuff, because I was real curious about how far can I push fatty lipids, okay? Because, I'm a firm believer, and through study and through a lot of learning from other people, that fat is very good for you, and fat's not the curse that it was once thought to be. And so I had to redo all my thinking. But better than anything, I wanted to self-experiment with it. And so I still play with my fats now. I'll jump them up to 150. I'll jump them to 190, 200 sometimes. And then I'll actually bring them down to 90 or 80 because I'm always trying to see, everybody has a sweet spot, okay? And that's why we need to talk about fat, because we're all not the same. I mean, we're from, you and I, from just our body, our metabolism, the way our insulin, if we're insulin sensitive or insulin resistance, our biomarkers, our variants from our genes, we all have different variants that can handle fat differently. So it's not one size fits all. And there's some people out there who just cannot handle that much fat.
Yeah.
And there's some people that really can.
Which isn't the important reason. Yeah. It's the reason that it's important for us to understand how our body interacts with fats.
How it works.
Right?
Exactly.
And in past podcasts, we've covered good fat, bad fat.
Yes.
But we want to actually dive deeper a little bit into understanding how our body interacts with this fat, where it might store it, and when that becomes a problem.
Yes.
And how we utilize that knowledge to live healthier, have more energy, all of that kind of stuff. I have to say, going into this episode, because I get the benefit of sharing my own personal experience, is as I went out of ketosis for about 6 weeks.
I was shocked.
It was actually closer to 2 months.
I know.
It was just a high stress time, and we were trying to figure some things out, and we've got some big changes in our family happening. So I did, and I got so sick of being tired.
Did you?
And foggy that I told Katie, my wife, I said, I'm back in. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So you've ruined me.
I know. Well, you know what? And it's hard because you have a wife that's not keto, okay? And you have kids, and you're traveling, and you're doing a lot, and it's really tough on the family when you have one member that's doing this ketogenics and the others. Your wife eats very healthy. She's a health nut.
Yeah, she's clean.
She's clean, but it's not keto. So you're not sharing she can't eat the fat that you're eating, okay? Because she still has a certain amount of carbs, and so she doesn't want a double whammy. So you're not going to store that extra fat.
Yep, exactly.
So we're still getting lots of confusion, and part of it's my fault because when I'm talking to people, it's easy to say. It just rolls out my mouth, the exogenous fat that you're eating, the endogenous fat that you're burning. And people are like, what? And the dietary fat you're eating. And people still, and then there's some confusion because people that don't know nutrition don't really pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So when I say dietary fat, then I probably should just be better and say the fat that you're consuming from the outside coming to the inside, where does it go? How does it get transported? And what's it used for? Okay?
Yeah.
And then we have the endogenous, which is fat storage, just releasing its fatty acids through the LPL, okay? Lipoprotein lipase, which says, hey, fat cell, let's get some of that fat out and use it as an energy source or glucagon. Well, I'm not going to go deep. We'll send it to the liver to make ketones, okay? So obviously we have fat stored, and we call that endogenous, so it's just fat storage, and then we have fat we eat outside. Yeah. So everybody that goes on ketosis, I'm telling you, we're increasing your fat that you're going to eat. And they just say, well, wait a minute, I have a lot of fat on my body.
Can I burn that first?
Why am I eating more fat? Okay. Yeah. How am I going to burn that and that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and people get confused, and I sometimes gloss right over it real quickly. And I think that's what people fear a lot, is when you're eating, the dairy products and the fat, from your nuts and your seeds and your avocados and different things. Everybody just says, well, I don't want any more fat in my body.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's interesting. I've never thought about that. But can you talk about how that is the fat that we eat, how that's separated? I mean, do we eat the fat, our bodies store it, and then we burn it? Or does it go directly to the mitochondria?
So what happens when I eat fat, okay? So we have to transport fat in our blood, right? And we talked about it before. And blood... it's water, okay? And fat is fat, so it's hydrophobic. It doesn't want to go in water unless you need something to transport it. And we talked about a long time ago on a podcast, but we have what we call those LDL particles. Those are your transporters. You can call it a boat, a train, whatever you want to call it, okay? So you need something. When you eat that fat, it's got to be emulsified in your stomach, right? And so your bile acids and pancreatic lipase, there's things that break it down, okay? Because it's got to take that fat and break it completely down to get it into your endothelial cell, into your enterocyte, to get it through the digestion into the blood, okay?
Yeah.
So it has to undo it. So remember, triglyceride, it's that glycerol with 3 fatty acids. That's fat, triglyceride. Yeah. It has to break it down, and that's a lot of work. It has to emulsify it, so it's got to go into the enterocyte, and then it's got to be from there. Now, this is your dietary fat. It's got to be transported, and we've talked about chylomicrons, all right? So real quick, I won't repeat all that. It's attached. We call it chylomicron. That's an LDL particle, okay? So we throw that. That's your triglycerides. It's got to be taken into the bloodstream, all right? And so... Of course, some cholesterol goes with it, just a little bit, but that's why I always say dietary cholesterol has no effect on it. So we're not talking cholesterol, but don't worry about that. And maybe some fat-soluble vitamins or whatever. Whatever's fat can take a ride.
Yeah.
So it's got to go into, it goes through your thoracic, lymphatic, now into the blood. It goes to the heart. So now these are chylomicrons carrying fat from the outside. So you ask, well, what do we do with it? All right. You said, is that stored? Is it just going to go for storage? No, it's going to go to your heart and through your muscle and your tissues, and the LPL say, hey, I need this for energy, okay? Because remember, the cell is the boss. We have insulin and glucagon that it tries to tell your cells what to do, right?
Yeah.
Because it's saying, hey, I have a body here to protect. These hormones are your communicators, and I'm going to tell the cells what to do. So insulin goes out to the cells, said, hey, I'm going to stuff glucose in here. Glucagon's doesn't go to muscle cells, it goes to the other cells, say, hey, I'm going to go grab some fatty acid out of here to get it burned. But the cells are the boss. They're their own boss. They're going to do what they want to do to survive. So if they have enough energy, their energy status, they're going to say, no, I don't want any glucose. But the cell's the boss, okay?
Yeah.
And we kind of forget that. But anyway, I got off there. But anyway, so the chylomicrons are in the blood. They're going out to the muscle, okay? Mm-hmm. They're going out to the tissue, say, hey, I need energy. They drop off. LPL says, hey, let me give those triglycerides. All it's doing is transporting energy. Everybody just think that. Remember, LDL transports energy. And I went to a low carb conference, and it was great because I went to hear a couple speakers, Bickman and Feldman, and they spoke just on this. And it's stuff that we've talked about before, and it was really nice to actually hear it getting pushed harder, like glucagon and insulin resistance and LDL fat particles and all the cholesterol that everybody knows I love blood lipids.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the LDL is just moving that triglyceride to get it into your cells to use as energy. That's its job. It's not to transport cholesterol. Cholesterol's there for the ride, and it'll drop off or whatever's needed if it is. It's probably not because remember your cells make your own cholesterol. Okay,
yeah.
So that's your chylomicrons coming from outside, right?
Uh-huh.
So hopefully those clear pretty quick. And I think I've said before, an hour, two, a few hours, they're gone. It goes back to the liver. If anything's left over, it's a remnant, they call it. It'll take it to the liver, all right? So you're eating fatty acids, but remember, your muscle tissue loves to burn fat. Your heart prefers fat over glucose.
So let me just clarify really quick. So everything that you're talking about right now is if we're in ketosis and we're fat adapted.
Nope. Even if everything that you're doing, it's just fat coming to the body.
Okay.
Then once it's in the body, if you're in ketosis or you're insulin resistant or insulin sensitive, or you just loaded a bunch of carbs with that, then the metabolic, the hub, the liver says, okay, this is what's got to be done with all this stuff. Okay.
Right.
So you have a choice. Any energy you bring in, you're either going to store it or you're going to burn it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Those are your two choices. So when you bring those fats from the outside, muscles love to burn fatty acids, okay? But we're a little different. We're saying we're gonna be real picky about what macronutrients we bring in. Those are your three: carbs, protein, and fat. We're gonna be a little more picky, all right? So instead of bringing in carbs with all that fat, okay, we're gonna lower our carbs, because we know once those chylomicrons are delivering the triglycerides, okay, if you have too much insulin, okay, then what's gonna happen, the insulin's busy getting rid of sugar, okay, and so it's going to say, I'm going to store this fat. There's nothing else I can do with it because you got all these carbs coming with it. My glucose is high. My insulin's high. So that's the transporter of fat that we've got to say, hey, how do we want that fat transported? Okay, we want it into storage. We want it into cells.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's what I was getting at is if we're in ketosis and we're fat adapted, when we come to that fork in the road, whether it's going to be stored or burnt,
right?
If you're in ketosis, it's going to go to the burnt.
It's going to go burnt.
It's going to go on the burnt road.
It's going to go burnt.
But if we're taking in carbs, which is an easier burn for your body,
but
a less efficient burn.
It's more efficient to go to the cell for energy, but not as efficient in the mitochondria. You're right, exactly. Because what's easier? Let me just burn those carbs, or let's take the fat, send the extra, take the fat and store it, or take those carbs if you have too many. And then say, I got de novo lipogenesis, send it to the liver, convert that, to fat, and then go store it. The body will say, let's just burn these carbs. It's a little simpler. They're right here. Let's just burn those.
Yeah, and they burn fast.
They burn fast,
the less sparks needed to burn them. So the analogy that I love about when we talk about this process is keeping a campfire going. Right.
Exactly.
We start it with some kindling. We get it going, and then once it's going, we can get some logs on it. Right.
Exactly.
And in this analogy, the carbs are the kindling.
Right.
So if you started a fire and it was cold outside and you're camping, you started a fire with kindling, and you had a pile of wood, nice big chunks of wood, and a pile of kindling, and you just burnt kindling all night. How often would you need to be putting that kindling on? And it's it's never going to reach the temperatures that are actually efficient enough to keep you warm.
And a long burn.
Yep. And then you got to haul all this wood around that you didn't burn, right?
It tastes good.
Your fat.
The Kindle tastes good, though. It's fast. It burns fast. But what happens if you keep eating too much Kindle and you're eating fat with it, okay? So now you've got all this Kindle coming in, but the body says, I can't burn all this Kindle. I can't keep up with it. So it says, all right, this is the bad part. This is de novo lipogenesis. It has to send that carb to the liver because you can't utilize it. It says, all right, I got to convert this to a triglyceride, saturated fat. I got to convert it and go store it. But the scariest part of what we don't understand is what people don't realize is we've got to watch out. That liver has to take that fat. It can store it there, which you don't store a lot of fat on your body from those extra carbs that are being converted to fat. You really don't. It's not a lot, but there's enough, okay? Most of your fat comes from fat storage. So when you're eating a lot of carbs and a lot of fat, guess what? That fat's going to go to storage, okay? Then if there's too many carbs in excess, it's going to go get, we call it de novo lipogenesis, convert it to fat, all right?
But it stays in the liver.
Yeah, 26% of the fat in your fatty liver is coming from that, all right? That's the scary part. It can send it out, but guess what? It'll stay in your liver. And we've never really talked about fatty liver. A good point you brought up. Fatty liver disease. Do you realize it's the most common disease out there?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and nobody knows it.
Wow.
You don't know it, but it's happening. There's like 100 million people, Americans, have fatty liver. And if you're a type 2 diabetic, 62 to about 65% guaranteed you have fatty liver.
Interesting.
And that's a big promoter of inflammation, cardiac disease, cancer, liver, cirrhosis, scarring of the liver. This is when we're getting too much fat, in the liver.
Yeah.
And I think it takes 10% of your liver to be fat to be diagnosed with fatty liver.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's scary. Good.
So it can cause all these things, but ultimately it's some of these other things that are going to be the cause of death or illness or all that.
It'll actually cause a fatty liver because it promotes inflammation. People die. They say
from liver failure or from other
liver failure because it starts to scar and then cirrhosis. They said, I'm trying to remember, since you just brought that up. By I think 2020, there's going to be more liver transplants due to fatty liver disease than hepatitis C.
Oh my gosh.
So people don't realize this, and that's why, I've been doing a lot of studying on it, because I have a lot of those that I'm coaching that are type 2 diabetic, that they need to get an ultrasound and really check out their liver, because that's what excess carbs and high fructose corn syrup and everything else, the liver has no choice, but it'll store some of that. And I think we've talked before that everybody has their fat, remember, adaptation, that fat extension, that everybody has kind of their own set point on how fat they can get genetically. You do, okay? And remember, I talked about, I have a BioFitter that's 300-something pounds, and he's healthy as biomarkers as me, because he can keep adding adipose tissue, more fat. But once that fat cell gets so big, or the adipocytes don't extend or get bigger, then you go into that spillover we talked about. Where does that go? Straight to the portal vein, straight to the liver.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the liver's like, oh, great, what am I going to do with this fat?
Yeah.
Serious? I'll store some of it, but I may send it to your pancreas. I have to store it places, so it goes out to the organs or tissue or wherever. You just opened up a whole new inflammation problem right there.
So can the liver recover from that through ketosis?
Yes, it can. That's what's exciting about ketosis, because you can actually, through diet, nutrition, ketosis especially, and they've got clinical studies out there that I've been looking at about a month ago, showing how ketogenics can actually clear the fat from the liver and actually change that. And so that's because you're not bringing in, it's really the culprit of those triglycerides that are getting produced from excess carbs and fructose, and is actually going to raise that fatty liver.
Some of those things we were never meant to eat.
No. Are you serious? Yeah. And so it's just, everybody out there is going to be, and doctors have got to start, raising awareness to it. Have you ever had anybody talk to you about your liver, fatty liver?
No.
Never have.
I've always thought heart was the concern with fat.
Yeah, and it is, but guess what? Fatty liver will lead to a cardiac failure, to heart attacks, and it leads to cancer, and it leads, liver damage, and it's something that's coming. And thank goodness it's at excess carbs with fat, okay? Excess carbs aren't bad. Like you're an insulin-sensitive person. I'm not always raining on carbs. Some people can handle more carbs, but you're not eating the fat and all the protein and everything with the carbs. That's where it becomes dangerous, because that carb says, hey, I got to go de novo on you. I got to go. So sorry. And that's what people are storing, is a lot of that fat. It'll go to your fat cells, into your adipose tissue, but it also could hang around the liver.
Yeah.
So,
literally, ketosis is something that could turn that statistic, that 2020 statistic around, possibly.
Right.
And it's a good thing that it's getting so much more popular, right?
It actually will. And we talked about the chylomicrons carrying fat, but then again, we have the VLDL, and we're running out of time probably, and I won't go into that part. But remember, that fat's coming from storage. We have LDL particles. We call those the VLDL. The liver produces that. So it takes that fat that you're releasing, glucagon will go and release it through the LPL. That's what we want to burn for our ketones, okay?
Yeah.
And so that's what everybody's saying, dietary fat or fat stored.
Yeah.
Right? That's where keto has the advantage, because now you have those VLDLs that are going to take that fat around and deliver it, those are triglycerides, and deliver that also as energy. That's what's floating around in your blood, and you don't want it out there. And my triglycerides, remember when I mentioned my blood markers? they were 381 total cholesterol. And anybody out there that knows this, and I've said it before, my LDL was 221, and my triglycerides were 38. So what does that mean? And my HDL was 150. Okay, so if you looked at that, you're like, and Feldman gave a great talk on it, and it's called lean mass hyperresponders. These are really high numbers, people that are keto, and I actually delivered my labs to him, because I've never seen anyone, even on his test, that had that high of HDL, 150. But all my markers, all my ratios show perfect, okay? But what I'm saying, that 38 triglyceride, I'm eating a lot of fat.
Yeah.
All right? But obviously that triglycerides are being delivered as energy. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So it's getting out of my blood. It's not hanging around. And as soon as if I ate all that fat, my cholesterol numbers come down. Okay, but I'm a hyper responder, and it's not genetic. There's a lot of lean mass guys out there that really have high numbers like me.
Yeah. So this fatty liver disease thing, that's pretty scary. How can somebody know? I mean, are there symptoms, or are there things that they can do if they feel like they're at risk? What action should people take?
There's a couple things they should watch for. If you have high triglycerides and low HDL, okay, and you have a large amount of those, remember we talked about the LDL particles, the small ones?
Yeah.
Then you're going to be fatty liver, almost certain, okay? Then ultrasound, okay? You can go to your doctor, say, and I should do it too, because there's a lot of years I lived on lots of excess carbs, and I'm sure I have some fatty liver issues. Remember, 100 million Americans have it?
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at 30% have some kind of fatty liver because of all that excess carbs.
But if you have it, you're like the keto rock star. I mean, what hope?
No, but remember, I'm the Ansel Keys babies. Remember, from the 50s and 60s is where the government took fat out of our diet.
Yeah.
And so I lived on carbs. Yeah. I thought I was doing the right thing all those years, and anybody that's my age, 62, it sucks. We're paying for it. My mom gave us margarine and got rid of butter and Crisco. So, this is Crisco. This is better than butter. This is healthy for you. so I'm sure, I have a lot of, I got some plaque, I'm sure. I got some fatty liver.
So I have another question for you, and it has to do with burning stored fat.
Yes.
So what is the mechanism, or how does it work in the simplest terms when somebody, because we've seen it over and over again with your clients, and I mean, it's just getting very, very popular. Ketosis is a ketogenic diet. What's happening in the body when somebody goes to a ketogenic diet and they just start burning all of this stored fat, right? Because
that's a good thing.
It is. It's a really good thing. Yeah. I just want to know the mechanism of it, because what you're telling me is that the fuel, that efficient fuel that we're burning when we're in ketosis, that energy, the clarity, it can go through the blood-brain barrier, all that kind of stuff, is the fat that we're eating.
Yes.
So why does that? How does that act as a catalyst to also burn the stored fat?
Right. So everything is dependent upon two hormones: insulin and glucagon. Okay. So your pancreas, you have your alpha cells, beta cells. I think I did a Sunday supplement that will regulate the glucagon and the insulin. All right. So you got your beta cells kicking out the insulin, and you got your alpha cells kicking out glucagon. Those work against each other. So when insulin is carbs and glucose is high, then insulin's in charge, okay? So insulin's going through, getting rid of all the glucose, getting the blood sugar out to the cells, and glucagon is down. It's not there, okay? So what happens when insulin drops, let's say we knock out the carbs, we knock out our glucose, we keep it really low, insulin drops, then guess whose turn? It's glucagon's turn. So when you eat fat, that's glucagon being produced, okay? You eat protein, you got glucagon, and a little bit of insulin from protein. So what happens, the glucagon says, hey, I'm in charge of being catabolic. I'm going to break stuff down, all right? So I'm actually going to, break down those fatty acids that you're storing, release them through that LPL, and HSL, the hormone-sensitive lipase. LPL stores it, HSL says, hey, insulin's down, you need energy. Your mitochondria, your cells are saying, hey, energy. I'm low, so I'm making a call for it. So here it is, the perfect storm. Now, glucagon's there. It says, hey, HSL, release the fatty acids, goes straight to the liver. Okay, it can actually be carried by albumin, can carry it to the muscles. All right, so now you're obviously sending it to the liver to make ketones. All right, beta hydroxybutyrate molecule, and it's going in abundance, and it backs up to acetyl-CoA, and then there's no oxaloacetate, etc. And now it's making beta hydroxybutyrate molecule, and that's being sent out. Remember, it's water soluble, so it goes right through the blood, straight to your muscles, straight to your brain. The brain will get first dibs. Yeah. So that's your stored fat now is being utilized, one, for ketones, and also your fatty acids. If it says, hey, I'm not now, just go to the muscle and be used for energy there, straight fatty acid. Yeah. So a lot of times people are different, and all the ones I coach, I'm like, your ketones are high. You're burning a lot of fatty acids probably because they're really training hard, but their ketones are pretty high. And so I have to say, all right, let's adjust the dietary fat that's coming from the outside. We don't want that competing with your ketone production. Right. So it's a lot of tweaking to do, and everybody's different. Everybody produces ketones different. They burn fatty acids. But just remember, your brain's not getting any of that fatty acids. It's coming from the stored fat because the blood-brain barrier won't pass. You're getting ketones. Okay,
so metaphorically or as a likeness, it's your body hitting that red button saying we need more energy. Grab it from the storage. Take it to the liver. Turn it into ketones.
Or and remember we have that VLDL. The chylomicrons do the dietary fat. Now we have VLDL produced by the liver carrying the triglycerides that are coming from within. And that carries it out, dumps it to the muscle tissue, dumps it to all their tissues, and then it breaks down to LDL, and then we're going into the LDL particles, and then we're going to get into cholesterol. We'll get into another podcast.
It's surprising to me that the rate at which most people lose weight when they first start keto because it seems, fat is such an efficient burn.
It is.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't seem like it would burn as fast, but it does. It
goes. You're going through it, the fatty acids. You're going through it. And think about it. You're eating fat, and you're converting stored fat to ketones.
So there's a lot of energy
There's a lot of energy going through. There is a lot. And that's why, think about it, all the carbs. And remember, when you go through the mitochondria, what are you getting? 32, 34 ATP out of glucose? Oxidation, that's
nothing compared to fat.
120 something ATP with beta oxidation, fat oxidation in the
less
mitochondria.
Than a third.
But I like some carbs for my glycogen, because that's our lactate that we want to burn, and some those energy pathways which we won't go into. But it's you got to have a little bit of carbs. But remember, the blood cell is the only one that needs glucose because they don't have a mitochondria. They have to burn glucose. And so everything else besides your brain has to have glucose too. But all the other cells love fatty acids or ketones. Yeah. And so fats, like I keep saying, fat's your friend. But and we've talked about saturated fat and polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats and the mix there. And there's good fats and bad fats. But I just love it because more people are coming over to the fat side, and, but we do have those women. I have a lot that stall out. The fatty acids aren't burning for energy right now. They hit a stall. My wife hit a stall. Then you got to tweak your way through it. Check the hormones. Remember, everything's hormonal. It's not calories. It's hormonal because we're dealing with insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity. And now we throw in glucagon. We throw in all these other parameters that. It's like putting the puzzle together. But don't be discouraged. Everybody can get through those stalls. Yeah. They all do. They all get through it. And men seem to have a little advantage.
Cool. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for biohacking with us today, Eric.
No problem.
And I want to thank you for joining us on this quest for optimal fitness. If you're ready to begin your own journey and live your life in ketosis, be sure to check out biofitcoaching.com or BioFit Coaching on Facebook. A lot of great discussion and resources there. What's the most popular thing on our Facebook page?
What?
The cookie recipes.
I know.
Yeah, cookie recipes. People are loving the cookbook. We published a cookbook of cookie recipes developed in the Keto Kitchen. Cooking in
that's right.
Ketosis Kitchen, and people are loving that. So there's lots of resources like that on our Facebook page that you can go to and check some of that stuff out. Also, if this podcast has helped you in any way or entertained you, we encourage you to consider going to iTunes, leaving us a review, 5-star rating. That helps us so much. We are really starting to collect a lot of people's stories there and experiences with the podcast, and that's just super fun. And finally, also, if this podcast is meaningful at all to you, we ask that you share it with those that you love, the ones that need it the most. That's the greatest compliment that you can give Eric and I for his time that he invests in this and for everything that we do to put this podcast on. So that's it. Hope everybody has a great week, and until next time, stay keto.